Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kishore Kishori ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Gonitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Good morning. We're reading from Canto 10, Chapter 89, Texts 8 through 9. Shayanam Shriya Utsange Padavakshasi Atadayat Tata Utaya Bhagavan Saha Lakshma Satam Gati Shayanam Shriya Utsange Pada Vakshasi Atadayat Sata Utaya Bhagavan Saha Lakshmya Shalam Gati Shayanam Shriya Utsange Pada Vakshasi Atadayat Tata Utaya Bhagavan Saha Lakshmya Satam Gati. Please chant. Shayanam Shriya Utsange Pada Vakshasi Atadayat Tata Utaya Bhagavan Saha Lakshmya Satam Gati Shayanam Shriya Utsange Pada Vakshasi Utadayat Tata Utaya Bhagavan Saha Lakshmya Satam Gati Shayanam Shriya Utsange Pada Vakshasi Atadayat Tata Utaya Bhagavan Saha Lakshmya Satam Gati Shayanam Shriya Utsange Pada Vakshasi Atadayat Tata Utaya Bhagavan Saha Lakshmya Satam Gati Shayanam Shriya Utsange Pada Vakshasi Atadayat Tata Utaya Bhagavan Saha Lakshmya Satam Gati. Thank you very much. So I'll just read the text 9 so that we do the translation in one piece. Svatalpad avaruyata nanamashi rasamunim ahate svagatam brahman nishidatrasane shanam ajanatam agatan va shantum arhatana prabho. From the word for word, Shayanam, who was lying down, Shriya, of the goddess of fortune, Utsange, on the lap, Pada, with his foot, Vakshasi, on his chest, Atadayat, he kicked, Tata, then, Utaya, standing up, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Saha Lakshmya, together with Goddess Lakshmi, Satam, of pure devotees, Gati, the destination. So the translation for text 8 through 9 is as follows. This is the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. There he went up to the Supreme Lord, he was lying with his head on the lap of his consort Shri and kicked him on the chest. The Lord then rose, along with goddess Lakshmi, as a sign of respect. Coming down from his bedstead, that supreme goal of all pure devotees bowed his head to the floor before the sage and told him, "Welcome, Brahmana. Please sit in this chair and rest a while. Kindly forgive us, dear master, for not noticing your arrival." And the purport, BBT purport. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, at the time of this pastime, Bhrigu Muni had not yet become a pure Vaishnava. Otherwise, he would not have acted so rashly towards the Supreme Lord. Not only was Lord Vishnu taking rest, but he was lying with his head in his wife's lap. For Bhrigu to strike him in this position, and not with his hand, but with his foot, was worse than any other offense Bhrigu could have imagined. Srila Prabhupada comments, quote, "Of course, Lord Vishnu is all-merciful. He did not become angry at the activities of Bhrigu Muni, for Bhrigu Muni was a great Brahmana. A Brahmana is to be excused even if he sometimes commits an offense, and Lord Vishnu set the example. Yet it is said that from the time of this incident, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, has not been very favorably disposed towards the Brahmanas, and therefore, because the goddess of fortune withholds her benedictions from them, the Brahmanas are generally very poor." Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurinmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamlam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Ragutam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitam Cha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapsa Kanchana Gorangi Radha Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataribhyascha Kripa Sindhiveva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimata Roma Padaswami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimata Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Navishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'll read the translation once more. There he went up to the Supreme Lord, who was lying with the head on the lap of his consort Shri, and kicked him on the chest. The Lord then rose, along with goddess Lakshmi, as a sign of respect. Coming down from his bedstead, that supreme goal of all pure devotees bowed his head to the floor before the sage and told him, "Welcome, Brahmana. Please sit in this chair and rest a while. Kindly forgive us, dear master, for not noticing your arrival." So, Bhrigu Muni's action is within the context of the test he was conducting on the three predominating deities of this material world, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. He had been deputed by an assembly of great sages who had been exploring philosophical topics. So the following question had been raised by the sages. This was the question: the three predominating deities of this material world, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, are directing all the affairs of this cosmos, but who among them is supreme? That was the philosophical question being raised by these sages. So after much discussion on the question, the great sages named Bhrigu, the son of Lord Brahma, to test all the three predominating deities and report to the assembly as to who was the greatest. So he was deputed to run the test. So the plan decided upon by the sages was for Bhrigu to test which one of the predominating deities possesses the quality of goodness in full. So that was the criterion that had to be met for marking which of the three deities was the greatest. Who possessed the quality of goodness in full. So Lord Krishna gives the qualification for one experiencing goodness. So here's how Lord Krishna puts it. This is the personality who is experiencing goodness. The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. So that's how you would recognize. And also be personally experiencing. So that's from Bhagavad Gita 14:12. So there are 9 gates of the body. So there are the 2 eyes, the 2 ears, the 2 nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, the anus. And the explanation given by Srila Prabhupada is that in the mode of goodness, one can see things in the right position. One can hear things in the right position. One can taste things in the right position. And one can taste and one can hear things in the right position. So it means, these are his words, one becomes cleansed inside and out. So in every gate of the body, Srila Prabhupada states, there's a development of the symptom of happiness. This is the position of goodness. So one is actually experiencing happiness in the eyes, in the ears, in the nostrils, in the tongue, etc. So generally, goodness is defined as virtue, or benevolence, or even excellence. That's what goodness means. There's excellence, there's benevolence, meaning kindness, and there's a virtuous outlook. So the test for this mode of goodness took the form of the subject, Lord Vishnu. This is the verse we're reading today. He was lying on a bed of flowers in the company of his wife, the goddess of fortune, who was engaged in massaging his lotus feet. So here's the subject. That's what Bhrigu Muni is presented with. And he has to run a test to evaluate if Lord Vishnu is in the mode of goodness. Sorry. Bhrigu Muni purposely, this was how he ran his test, he purposely committed the greatest sin by offending Lord Vishnu. That was his test. By his own bodily activity. So earlier, Bhrigu Muni had committed an offense that was mental to Lord Brahma. A second offense was to Lord Shiva, and it was vocal. And now, this final offense is corporal. It means he's committing it with his body. And Srila Prabhupada explains it this way. These different offenses are progressively greater in degree. An offense committed within the mind is a positive offense. That's how he puts it. The same offense committed verbally is comparatively more grave. And when committed by bodily activities or actions, it is superlative in offensiveness. So gradations of offensiveness. So there's an example of a body-related offense, a very famous one. It's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this is how it's described. So this is one of these corporal offenses. Suddenly a woman from Orissa, unable to see Lord Jagannath because of the crowd, climbed the column of Garuda, placing her foot on Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shoulder. Now there's an offense. And the reason for this being an offense is that Garuda is a carrier of Lord Vishnu. So is the supreme Vaishnava. Thus, to touch his body with one's feet or to climb the column of Garuda is certainly Vaishnava aparad. It's an offense of the body and an offense to a great Vaishnava. In addition, she put her foot on the shoulder of Lord Chaitanya. That's also offensive. So Bhrigu Muni, he is committing the greatest offense by kicking the chest of Lord Vishnu in the presence of the goddess of fortune. So we're going to look at this a little bit more closely. Now, the results of the test for Bhrigu Muni was that Lord Vishnu did not become angry at this action of Bhrigu Muni. And the reason being that Bhrigu Muni was a great Brahmana. So Srila Prabhupada puts it this way. A Brahmana is to be excused even if he sometimes commits an offense. That's from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the exaltedness of the Brahmana, the reason a Brahmana's offense can be excused is that the person is in a very exalted position, very close to Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna. So the exaltedness of the Brahmana is that within himself he has qualities. And these are the qualities given by Lord Krishna. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. So that is why the category of Brahmana, that class of persons, are worshipable by virtue of the fact that they're carrying and embodying these particular qualities. So Lord Vishnu is not becoming angry because in front of him is a Brahmana. So the Brahmana is understood. You behave respectfully to that class, that category of persons for these reasons. So the means for judging the character of Bhrigu Muni is closely tied to the principle by which he lives his life. So you're not going to judge the character of the person based on one action. You're going to judge the character based on the principle by which they live their lives. So if one were to look at the objective of one who is practicing devotional service, one would say that such a person is fully conscious of the activities of Krishna consciousness. So meaning the person is called a sadhu, and that such a person acting in Krishna consciousness is acting in goodness. So the two go together. And just by acting in Krishna consciousness, one is acting in goodness. So we can recall Srila Prabhupada's definition of goodness. Seeing things in the right position means you understanding things correctly. So that description of the person acting in Krishna consciousness is given by Lord Krishna. So here's Lord Krishna describing, how you would recognize a person acting in goodness. So this is how Lord Krishna puts it. The absolute truth is the objective of devotional sacrifice, and it is indicated by the word sat. The performer of such sacrifice is also called sat, as are all the works of sacrifice, penance and charity, which, true to the absolute nature, are performed to please the Supreme Person, O son of Preta. That's at Bhagavad Gita 17:27. So it's considered perfect and complete, the actions performed by a person wanting to please the Supreme Person. Now, Lord Vishnu, upon being the recipient of the action of Bhrigu Muni, he rose along with Lakshmi as a sign of respect. So he's not... So notice how he's arising. He's just being kicked in the chest. He rises as a sign of respect. That is the mood in which he arises. So there's the offering of service. And there's the offering of service to anything which represents the Supreme Lord. And hence, Lord Vishnu, he's setting an example. He's honoring the Brahmana in his presence. So the action that's performed is the action that is giving respect to the Brahmana before him. And he does not take into account the one action that's just been performed by that Brahmana. So the verse we read said, coming down from his bedstead, that shelter of all qualities bowed his head to the floor before the sage and told him, welcome, Brahmana. Please sit in this chair and rest a while. Kindly forgive us, dear master, for not noticing your arrival. That is the response to just having been kicked in the chest while lying in bed with his consort. So Srila Jiva Goswami notes that because Lord Vishnu was lying with his head on Lakshmi's lap and both of them were absorbed in prema, they did not see Brigu arrive. So, and that's what Lord Vishnu is acknowledging. We didn't see you arrive. Never mind that it's coming into his private chamber. But the respect goes to the Brahmana, the Brahmanical class. So Srila Prabhupada narrates Lord Vishnu's addressing Bhrigu Muni. So this is how Srila Prabhupada puts it. So these are the words of Bhrigu Muni, but just how Srila Prabhupada puts it across. And it's quite extensive. My dear Brahmana, it is my greatest fortune that you have come here. Please, therefore, sit down on this cushion for a few minutes. My dear Brahmana, I'm very sorry that when you first entered my home, I could not receive you properly. It was a great offense on my part, and I beg you to pardon me. You are so pure and great that the water which washes your feet can purify even the places of pilgrimage. Therefore, I request you to purify the Vaikuntha planet where I live with my associates. This is going a little bit into the next verse, but it's just necessary to put it in one complete whole because it's the same speech that Lord Vishnu is giving. My dear father, a great sage, I know that your feet are very soft, like a lotus flower, and that my chest is as hard as a thunderbolt. I'm therefore afraid that you may have felt some pain. By kicking my chest, let me touch your feet to relieve the pain you have suffered. Lord Vishnu then began to massage the feet of Bhrigu Muni. I mean, just comprehend this response to on the part of Lord Vishnu to the particular action of Bhrigu Muni. So Srila Prabhupada states, Bhrigu Muni kicking the chest of the Lord was certainly a great offense. But Lord Vishnu is so great that he did not care. And interestingly enough, Lord Chaitanya responded in a similar manner to the corporal offense of the risen woman. This is how Lord Chaitanya responded. It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita. When he saw this lady having climbed the column of Garuda, then having put her foot on his shoulder, when he saw this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's secretary Govinda hastily got her down from her position. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, chastised him for this. Oh, Adivasya. So he's calling his close personal secretary for having tried to not have this woman act in this offensive way. Lord Chaitanya calls him Adivasya, which is an uncivilized man. So he addresses his secretary as an uncivilized man. Do not forbid this woman to climb the Garuda Stamba. Let her see Lord Jagannath to her satisfaction. So quite ready to forgive the offense, because understanding that the person's was impelled by a desire to see Lord Jagannath. So Brigu's experiment to see if Lord Vishnu was in the mode of goodness resulted in him seeing that Lord Vishnu displayed not even ordinary goodness, but Sudasattva, a transcendental goodness. And actually this transcendental goodness we do in one verse, but it's actually explained in 4 verses. So the 4 verses are explaining this transcendental goodness of Lord Vishnu. So there's a beautiful description of Lord Vishnu as he's understood by those realizing the form of the Lord. And particularly it's in Shantarasa, kind of neutrality. But I think I'm reading this is coming from Srila Rupa Goswami from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, because it completely epitomizes, having just heard how Lord Vishnu responded to this test run by Bhrigu Muni. So this is how it's put. So these are persons that are very advanced devotees who are actually in close contact with Lord Vishnu, how they're meditating on him. The attractive 4-armed form of the Lord, filled with bliss and dark blue in complexion, is an ocean in which the jivas are the waves. If he is seen by the Paramahamsa sages, their minds will leave impersonal Brahman and become absorbed in all his qualities. So there's a great beauty to his form. So Srila Vishwanath points out that there is the possibility also that Bhrigu could have seen Lakshmi's limbs because he's come into their private bedchamber. Yet she did not even have a trace of anger against the sage. Very interesting. She also did not show anger. And this is a function of the mode of goodness. So remember the definition given by Srila Prabhupada for the mode of goodness? You see everything in the right position. So Lakshmi had no anger, despite, her husband just being kicked in the chest while they're lying on their bedstead. And the reason for this is that Lakshmi understood the mentality of her beloved consort. That is why she wasn't angry. So she did not feel angry within herself, even when she saw Lord Vishnu insulted. And this is a function of transcendental goodness, this ability to not have any anger, even with an insult coming one's way, because you're understanding the mentality, or she understood the mentality of Lord Vishnu. And Srila Jiva Goswami puts it this way: because of the Lord's qualities manifested at this time, later Bhrigu became a Vaishnava. So we read that a little bit in the verse of today. So one may ask, why was somebody who wasn't a perfect Vaishnava being allowed to go to Vaikuntha? And Srila Jiva Goswami explains it's because the Lord desired to show his qualities and to show mercy to the people in general. That's why Bhrigu Muni was permitted to go to Vaikuntha, and that this incident could take place. It was by the Lord's will. And Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he describes again how this worshipable form of the Lord is seen by Vaishnavas. So Bhrigu Muni may not have been at this point that he was able to fully see. That's what Srila Jiva Goswami is explaining. But this is how Lord Vishnu is seen by Vaishnavas, and this can give insight into the qualities manifested by Lord Vishnu. So again, it's that mood of neutrality. I'm reading from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu because I thought it's very relevant how it would have been were somebody properly in that devotional mood in relationship with Lord Vishnu. So they see the Lord with an eternal form of knowledge and bliss, which is most attractive to the Atmaramas. That he is the Paramatma, the Param Brahman, free from all passions, tolerant, pure, sense-controlled, eternally fixed in spiritual form, who rewards even enemies he kills and who is greater than the whole universe. So that's actually the proper meditation on Lord Vishnu. So Bhrigu Muni was somewhat rash, but he was running an experiment, and he had been deputed by a whole group of sages who were trying to resolve this philosophical topic of who actually, of the three main deities controlling the material cosmos, actually has this mode of goodness in its complete form. And indeed, Lord Vishnu displayed not only goodness, but transcendental goodness. And just as the description is, with his particular qualities, he's sense controlled, he's tolerant, he's pure, he's free from all passions. He rewards even enemies that he kills, and he's greater than the whole universe. So that was an examination of today's verse. If there's some thought or expansion on the topic, it's a little bit shorter than usual with class, but this is what this verse yielded.
Yeah, this pastime produces a lot of questions, produces a lot of questions. One is that the premise of the sages discussing at least what appears to be of who is in the moral goodness, or who is in the moral goodness in the highest form of moral goodness. If it's considered within the material goodness, then it doesn't make sense. Then it means that the Munis don't have a conception of what pure goodness is, or sattva, or Vishuddha sattva. It does make sense to them to understand, okay, whoever is in Vishuddha sattva, he must be supreme. That will make sense to me. If we analyze it from the perspective of asking the question, okay, who is in moral goodness? Like Brahmanas are supposed to be in the moral goodness. But when you're still afflicted by material false ego, even if you're in the moral goodness, you can still be victimized by, the different, how you say, unwanted things or upadis of the material condition. So things can degrade into anger or this and that. So the question will be then, who is in sattva gun? And it makes sense in one sense that they don't understand the position of Lord Vishnu fully. Or it could be Lord Shiva, the Supreme, it could be Lord Vishnu, it could be Lord Brahma. So it makes sense to find out who is Supreme. And therefore, Bhrigu is not considered a Vaishnava until that point, that Vishnu is Supreme. So then he becomes Vaishnava. So it makes sense that it's like that, at least to my understanding. So in the beginning of this chapter, it says that Sukadeva Goswami was a bit annoyed by the whole inquiry like that. And I'm assuming, I don't know, I have to review that. But the whole discussion in itself is like, you should know this. It's all over is the absolute truth. Is transcendental knowledge established unequivocally Lord Vishnu as supreme. So what is this thing? So the next thing is Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. They're pure devotees. So they have they can display, they're supposed to display this transcendental quality of being, a Vaishnava, a pure devotee. And so, can a pure devotee be afflicted by the mode of ignorance or by the mode of passion? That also is questionable in terms of that's, is an external view of these personalities, because it doesn't make sense, because we see in other situations how Lord Shiva handles, provocative situations. So one of the things, and we have to read further and hear more about the pastime of how, it becomes fully displayed, the purpose of the Lord. You mentioned it, that Srila Jiva Goswami, I think, say that the purpose of the Lord was he wanted to show his qualities and help, in one sense, show his mercy to the regular people, ignorant people, like that. So I always want to mention.
Well, thank you for looking at, on a sort of logical level, the sages examining this question of which of the three deities controlling the material cosmos are in the mode of goodness, and looking more closely, is it the mode of goodness that's been looked at, or really Sudasattva, transcendental goodness. So you were examining that point of being in goodness versus transcendental goodness. So the way it was expressed was mode of goodness in a complete form. So I presume that complete form refers to including the transcendental goodness, because that's how it was worded, incomplete. Yeah, having goodness in completion. So, so yes, and that was the conclusion too, that Lord Vishnu displayed not only mode of goodness, so mode of goodness meaning that, he's showing happiness upon seeing Bhrigu Muni, because that was the description. Mode of goodness includes happiness in all the openings of the body. So he showed happiness, actually, in seeing Bhrigu Muni. And because he's seeing with the eye of vision, he's understanding it's a Brahmana. And Brahmana means peaceful, tolerant, austere, pure. So he's seeing that way. He's seen on a transcendental level with the eye of knowledge. And and then, you raise the question, can these controllers of the material cosmos really be subject to regular kind of passion or ignorance, as though they just have the mode of goodness prominent? So clearly there's, because of already having established that goodness means complete goodness, including the Sudasattva, then it means that they're not subject to ignorance. And I mean, there's examples in the scripture of Lord Brahma also appearing to, so the explanation is always given that it's Yoga Maya, under the control of the Supreme Lord, who seems to cover the particular great personality like Lord Brahma. So in this particular case, it's Lord Vishnu who's responding. So, the perfect being. So, yeah, that's just a little response.
Yeah, I was going to just add this short. Lord Shiva, the explanation of Lord Shiva is non-different in one sense to Lord Vishnu, but it's like Lord Vishnu when he enters in contact with the material energy. So he is the expansion of Lord Vishnu is the glance of Karanadakshay Vishnu enter into direct contact with material nature. So, therefore, and the Lord Vishnu is never in contact with material nature, so he's transcendental to material nature. So, in one sense, Lord Shiva, by his, what he's supposed to do is that he's in contact, he's within the material world. He's in contact with material nature. So therefore, he have to display these different aspects, but definitely not control.
Mm. Yes. Yes, he's always described as being completely peaceful, meaning Lord Shiva, completely peaceful. Although we hear that in the previous text where Bhrigu Muni called him an unclean heretic, he took up his trident. So it would appear that maybe he wasn't so peaceful, it would appear. But it's also, there's a family relationship there of brothers. So it's a little different, because I think the familial relationship also brings about different kinds of behavior. But then immediately Lord Shiva's consort appeals to him, and in no time at all, he's perfectly peaceful again.
Yeah, it's quite something. We can try to understand these personalities from our perspective and from our experience. So it means, I get angry, he gets angry, my anger is like his anger. So, is controlled by this, it's a complete different ballpark. And even with Parvati, we see with Chitraketu, Lord Shiva was peaceful, what appears to be Chitraketu insulting him, Parvati was completely upset and cursing. So how to understand these great personalities, pure Vaishnavas, expansions of the Lord, direct expansions. Parvati is a Shakti Tattva, So, and we can compare them, we can try to understand from our perspective. We have to be very careful.
Yes. Well, transcendental emotions are always in relationship to the Supreme Lord. So it's sort of by the Lord's will that even the emotions are manifesting a particular way, because the very advanced personalities are in such close relationship with the Lord. So that's the difference. Yeah. It's not under the sway of a way of being that's subject to the workings of the mind. Yeah. The mind just doesn't feature in the picture. Yeah. Well, if there's no other thought, or if there is, you have 1 second to contribute. Otherwise, the class is closed. Thank you very much for your very kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.